Ireland for her statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. President. We wish to thank the briefers for the information that has been provided. With respect to the political situation, we wish to emphasize that we advocate pursuit of intra-Syrian consultations in Geneva under the framework of the Constitutional Committee. We believe that the advancement of the settlement process, which is Syrian-led and Syrian-owned, with the support of the United Nations, without external intervention nor imposition of artificial timelines, is something to which there is no alternative. And this also applies to all possible new ideas and proposals. On this basis, we will continue to cooperate with the Syrians, the Special Envoy, and with other stakeholders. First and foremost, our Astana partners. We intend to carry out the next meeting of the representatives of Russia, Iran, and Turkey with the participation of stakeholders on 1 to 22 December in Nur Sultan. One of the important areas of the work of the Astana representatives is the issue of detainees. On 16 December, under the special working group of under Astana format, a sixth exchange of such individuals was carried out. This initiative was carried out successfully thanks to the coordination of the Russian Defense Ministry and Foreign Ministry, as well as relevant Turkish agencies and the United Nations and the ICRC. The overall improvement of the situation within and around Syria is also facilitated by the resumption of natural ties between that country and Arab neighbors, including at the economic level. We advocate further measures to ensure the full restoration of Damascus into the Arab family. Mr. President, I now turn to the humanitarian situation in Syria. This is a situation which remains fraught with tension. The difficulties persist in areas not under control of Damascus, in Idlib, the area beyond the Euphrates, and in areas where Turkish operations are carried out in the north. We believe that the achievement of long-term peace and security in Syria is possible only through the full restoration of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Syria, including Syrian authorities' control over national borders, as well as over natural resources, with ongoing efforts carried out to counter terrorism. Under these circumstances, of paramount importance is the pressing need to alleviate the humanitarian and socioeconomic situation. An important role in addressing these issues can and should be carried out by the implementation of Resolution 2585 in good faith and in full. A key component of this was already mentioned. That is the special report of Antonio Guterres. I now wish to comment on this document. To begin, I wish to emphasize that we pay tribute to the efforts of United Nations humanitarian agencies. They have done a great deal to bring the humanitarian situation in Syria on a constructive track. Martin, we wish to emphasize your personal contribution to this process, which we value tremendously. On the whole, the report lies within the framework of Resolution 2585. We have already mentioned that we fully grasp the difficulties that are being encountered by all parties involved in the implementation of the provisions of that resolution, and on the whole, we acknowledge the progress that has been achieved. We've used this as but the beginning of a long journey. In this context, I wish to note the following. First, with respect to information about the transparency of the humanitarian operations carried out, first and foremost in Idlib. Colleagues, once again, I repeat, on the whole, we do not doubt that the United Nations monitoring mission, which oversees the delivery of humanitarian convoys exclusively to the border with Syria, is carrying out its work well. Our concerns are related to what is taking place directly in Idlib, which is rife with terrorists who have seized control of all areas of human life, including freedom of movement. What kind of impartial, independent nature of provision of assistance under these circumstances can we even talk about? It is no secret that it is indeed due to the fault of the fighters. The food that has reached Samarra from Aleppo back in August was distributed as late as 16 December. And I cannot but voice regret at the fact that over all that time, colleagues, you did not even mention, not utter once did you condemn this, but rather you believe that there was a need for food to reach areas not covered by cross-border mechanism. What about the people for whom this assistance is critical? Are you indifferent in the face of their suffering? Against this backdrop, what was completely unpersuasive are allegations about some kind of effective mechanism for monitoring of the United Nations in the Idlib enclave, the basis of which is remote oversight. The precedent with terrorists gaining access to UN assistance in Aleppo, East Ghouta, and Rukban clearly attest to this. We emphasize the pressing need for UN international presence to be established in the enclave. This will help to enhance confidence in the distribution mechanism. Second, with respect to the modest, to put it mildly, progress in humanitarian deliveries across the line of contact. Essentially, what we cautioned against transpired. In 6 months, only 2 humanitarian convoys reached Idlib. Only 28 trucks, that is. In that time, from July to November this year, through Bab al-Hava, 48,498 trucks reached the de-escalation area. This shows that Idlib fighters are obstructing implementation of Resolution 2585. I reiterate the potential of cross-line deliveries, and interest in this on the ground is indeed considerable. And yet, incentives for Idlib terrorists to allow assistance to cross through that mechanism is not yet significant. And the Council needs to continue to work to see to it that implementation be carried out of its resolutions. And a number of those in the hall criticize the Syrian authorities, and yet the Syrian authorities are fully carrying out their obligations on time. And this has been confirmed by a number of reports of the Secretary General already. On 27 October, we have a clear plan of OCHA to step up cross-line operations into northwest Syria. According to the plan, to date, the area should have had 5 convoys reach it. In fact, we only have 1, not counting what was carried out earlier in late August, that is the UN World Food Program convoy to Sarmada. And yet we're talking about areas insufficiently covered by cross-border assistance. We're talking about individuals who do not receive assistance they need. Pragmatic and concrete proposals of humanitarian representatives are rejected by those who are in a position to unblock crossline and to make it sustained. So one of the key provisions of a Security Council resolution, Resolution 2585, is simply being torpedoed. The calm and even positive assessment of the situation, which is essentially tantamount to call to be satisfied with the one-off noble gestures of terrorists, is something which we cannot countenance. Distinguished colleagues, we call upon all to contribute to unblocking the provision of humanitarian assistance from Damascus to Afrin, El Bab, and Tel Abid as well. We believe that this is possible. 2 years have elapsed since the closure of Yarobia. The report notes that land and air assistance delivery routes from Damascus have been ironed out and made available, and that UN presence has been expanded and improved for those in need, with the exception of such areas as the IDP camp, the Al-Hol IDP camp. From July to October this year in northeast Syria, 425 trucks were carried out across line, plus 7 convoys through the World Health Organization. And this cannot even be compared to the 109 trucks that crossed through Yarabia in the 6 years of the operations of that the area. A third, the report of the Secretary General provided exhaustive argumentation about the importance of stepping up these efforts. Distinguished colleagues, we hear from you in various formats and fora about the importance of accounting for the views of those in need in carrying out assessments, humanitarian needs assessments, and developing humanitarian response plans. This apparently enhances the accountability for assistance being provided. Can you imagine individuals living in demolished homes or even tents? Can you imagine that they would not want to have access to normal accommodation, or would they not want to provide access to education to their children, have access to drinking water, tap water, and medical assistance. Their voices need to be heard first and foremost. Very little is being done for now in that area. We call upon donors to reconsider their approaches on humanitarian assistance in Syria for the benefit of ordinary civilians, especially including those returning to their homes. I wish to take this opportunity to thank those countries who proactively joined financing plans and have helped finance to these relevant projects. We expect that the UN will develop the relevant comprehensive plans and programs. Mr. President, the stepping up of comprehensive humanitarian assistance to Syrians is especially important given the COVID-19 pandemic, and this is facilitated by would be facilitated by addressing the problem of unilateral sanctions. A step in the right direction, in our view, would be was the publication of a special explanation from the U.S. Treasury that restrictions do not apply to early recovery projects. Their implementation, including for critical civilian infrastructure facilities, will help to meet not only the urgent needs of Syrian people, but also will help to improve living conditions and will help to prevent the collapse of water provision and electricity provision systems. The rebuilding of schools, hospitals, and homes will also help to ensure that conditions be ripe for the return of refugees and IDPs. As to whether the humanitarian exemptions are effective, time will tell, and we will closely watch this, and we call upon the Secretary General not to divert attention from this and to report about the situation in his regular reports. Mr. President, to conclude, I wish to emphasize that on the basis of our assessment, both the United Nations and individual member states of the Security Council can and should do more to ensure implementation of Security Council Resolution 2585. Without this, the efforts we undertook in July to establish constructive cooperation on the Syrian humanitarian track will not bring us to the desired results. Thank you for your attention.
Je remercie le représentant.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for his